Hi everyone, my name is Connor Hayes, and this is my first opposition speech. To begin, I will be presenting my own case and then refuting what was said yesterday by my opponent. So I will begin with two definitions. First, prisons. A building or vessel in which people are legally held as punishment for crimes they have committed or while awaiting trial. Abolish, formally to put an end to a system, practice, or institution. Moving forward, I will provide a framework. The proposition in this debate must advocate, as the resolution states, for the abolition of prisons. That means that society will stop using prisons altogether. If they cannot, then the opposition in this round must earn your ballot, Judge. With that, I will move to my first point. Prisons of some kind will always be necessary. Judge, if you look at the definition I just provided, prisons are buildings where we house individuals who are awaiting trial. This function is vital because, especially in the case of violent criminals, we can't have them running around after being arrested for murder or rape. Prisons, as they are, must be used at a basic level if we are to truly keep some semblance of the criminal justice system. Moving on to my second point, reform is the best way forward. The system we use is flawed. That is a statement of fact. But the fact of the matter is that scrapping the system just creates more problems. What would we do with the more than 7 million current inmates? What would we do with extremely violent criminals? What would we do with the people that have no respect for the laws of society? Putting people through a rehabilitation program as an alternative to prison doesn't always work. In a study done by the Department of Justice, it found that even though the boot camp program for inmates found that it did provide a short-term positive result in attitudes, it did not lead to a decrease in recidivism. The alternatives that are out there that hope to replace prisons are still in their infancy and have not actually been proven to work. Now on to my third point. Laws in sentencing are the real problem. The laws, at least in the United States, are just plain racist. Mandatory minimums create much higher incarceration rates for the poor and minority individuals. This leads to a massive overpopulation of the prison system and an increase in recidivism or repeat offending. If we plan on making a wise and efficient solution to the problems facing the legal system, then we should start with what sends people to prison and determines the length of their stay. The laws in place make it harder to rehabilitate criminals and even harder to separate those who are dangerous to society from those who got caught smoking weed. If we truly wish to create a more just society, as my opponent advocates for, then we should start by making the laws in this country more just. Once someone has broken a law, the system we have is prepared to deal with said criminal. The problem is, they're not ready to deal with the over 7 million inmates we have in the United States. More prisons actually creates a better quality of prison by reducing overpopulation. You combine that with a better legal code, and you have a society that is both more just and successful. Now with that, I'm going to move on to my opponent. Now she said that prison crowding is a major issue. And I agree. I think that's a really big point in today's debate. Is that overcrowding is huge, but the response to overcrowding isn't to abolish prisons. The response to overcrowding is to either decrease the amount of people you send to prison for, say, drug violations, you send them to rehab, and focus, maybe build a few more prisons so that we can lower the population in each prison to make it a better living condition. She moves on to talk about how in California, the U.S. Supreme Court declared that they had to really lower the amount of prisoners. That's fine, but they didn't say that they should have abolished or taken away the prison system. Moving on, she said that prisons are not the only way to deal with things. She then talks about how the incarceration rate has gone up, but doesn't talk about any real alternatives. She says that around the world, people are having, lower incarceration rates than the United States. But she never really discusses the issues of what could we do instead. She instead focuses on, here's the problem. I'm providing an alternative. We create a better legal system. We reform the system. She's saying there is a problem. She's not providing a plan to actually fix the problem, where on the opposition, we have one. Moving on to two things. One of the last things she said was, the community we hope to build is one that assures our basic needs and inwardly binds us in responsibility for each other. But we can't just do that and allow people who break that bond that we've built to just walk free or go through a rehabilitation program that hasn't actually worked. So what we should do is keep the ones who are harmful from society away from society in prisons and relax our enforcement of other laws or change those laws to make them more fair. Now, the last thing she says is that in Iowa, there have been attempts for a rehabilitation program. She didn't explain any specifics, so I went and looked it up. Now, one of the programs that came up was a sex offender program, which is great. It's a great idea. The problem is, in 17 years, it's only graduated 6 people, and that's after they serve their prison sentence. So if you look in today's debate, the opposition has proven that there's a better way to deal with the system of prisons than abolishing it. Thank you.